Hello. Good morning. Happy Monday to you and welcome in. I hope you had a good weekend. Be it a good morning to you, a good afternoon, a good evening. We got viewers all over the world and that's pretty freaking cool, honestly. But for most of you, I think it's morning. So good morning to you. I hope you had a good weekend. I had a pretty good one. Busy but fun. And now I'm excited to be back here with you with a hot cup of coffee to answer any questions you might have about publishing, writing, books, reading, storytelling, all that fun stuff. Whatever it may be, please do ask away. I am here to answer, here to chat, here to hang out, here for the next hour or so. So please do ask away. It'll be a pleasure to chat with you. It was a good weekend this weekend. I was actually met up with a friend who used to do songwriting. Which is crazy to me. I find that absolutely fascinating. I can't imagine writing a song. Writing a book is one thing that I know how to do, and it's probably all practice in the end. But songwriting, that just feels so different, so unattainable, honestly. And I'm interested in it. But for now, we'll talk books, publishing, writing, anything that you have questions about. Please ask away, and I will do my best to answer. Happy to help however I can. I know we've had some very regular viewers in the past who have asked questions as they've progressed along their writing and or publishing journey for some of them. And that's always cool to see. I appreciate that. So, if you're here today, if you got a question, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer it. As for me, once this is over, we'll be getting on to writing the next book. I'm trying to work on doing a little bit less plotting and a little more spur-of-the-moment creativity. I work fine with a plot laid out ahead of time. It works really well for me, but it feels like it might be more efficient from a professional standpoint. If I'm writing books all the time, it feels like it might be more efficient to not spend so much time on plotting. So who knows? We'll see. Dragon Faith Press. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a good weekend. Clark Cap 24, you said fantasy is probably my favorite genre, so this seems perfect. Well, welcome in, Clark. If you got any questions, my friend, ask away. We're happy you're here. Serta, do I like Harry Potter? Yeah, I mean, I grew up reading it. I'm part of that millennial generation who grew up with the books, which is a perfect place to be. Pretty cool to grow up with the stories, so still enjoy the books, still enjoy the movies, but, shame where the author's at these days. Pariah, good to see you, my guy. Jenna, you said, have you ever wondered how a single penguin wrote so many classics? Yeah, man, that's a prolific penguin, isn't it? It's a good one. Rick, there's no shot you're not related to Asmongold. Rick, I appreciate you starting us off strong today. Knocking the Asmongold counter right on up. Oh, there it is. Knocking the Asmongold counter right on up to 90. Welcome in, my guy. Good to have you. Dreamspire Animations. Cool name. You said, what can I do if I have no motivation to continue writing my book, but I still like the story? Okay, so this is a common issue that I see folks have. The reality of it is writing, I think, is 1/3 inspiration or motivation and 2/3 consistency. So I think what you should do is create a writing schedule for yourself. Maybe it's 3 days a week you're going to write, and stick to that schedule just religiously. What I find is when the passion leaves, and it does for every project, the consistency is what keeps you coming back and makes it feel more like a routine. And if you stick with that for like 6 or so weeks, it becomes a routine. And then when you miss a writing day, it feels wrong. And it just makes it easier to keep going. So try that. Give yourself a little writing schedule and stick with it. Pariah, you said, do you plan every chapter beforehand, like a list of elements/events that are supposed to be in it? So Pariah, this is going to be a personal thing. I traditionally have done what I call a skeleton outline, basically a bullet point per chapter. I write the chapter main idea and then like 2 to 3 bullet points, and I keep it slim. That being said, I'm experimenting with not planning ahead of time. There's kind of 3 ways to go about it. Plan everything in detail, plan a little bit, or just go by the seat of your pants. Make it up as you go along. And that's the one I'm kind of experimenting with a little bit right now. So I'm going to adjust my light here. It's a little bit bright. I notice my hands are like totally washed out. There we go. Pyrite Trilobite. That's a fun name. You said you just finished Wriggly Little Hands on audiobook and you loved it. You laughed so much. Man, thank you. That's incredible. I'm so glad to hear that. Didn't Sound Booth do an incredible job with that book? I'm so proud of them, man. I can't wait to get them the sequel, too. They did an incredible job. I can't wait to work with them again. Pyrite, thank you so much. I'm glad you gave it a try. I'm glad you enjoyed it, my guy. Please do leave a review if you can. It really helps. Altherion, you said, why do I hear that writing novels or books is just pocket money? Well, often because it's hard to make good money in writing. It's a difficult profession. There are few of us that make it fully pro and write full time. And I am a small fry in the publishing world. I'm on the verge of not being able to do it full time, and growing, in the right direction. But I'm not doing Stephen King numbers, Josiah R. Anderson, my friend, it's good to see you. It has been a while. What have you been up to, dude? What have you been doing? Tall, you said, how many words do you write in a day? Not how many books, that'd be amazing. How many words do I write in a day? I aim for about 2,000 to 2,500 words a day. That's roughly a chapter. That's an attainable goal for me. It's important to keep in mind when writing every day. It's not about how many words can you theoretically write in a day. It's how many words can you theoretically write in a day, and the next day, and the next day. It's a marathon, right? It's all about endurance. So it's 2,000 to 2,500. That's a sustainable amount for me to write 5 days a week. Grief, you said you sat down today and began your book 1 master sheet, which has your inspiration and the first chapter's plot. Good stuff, man. Exciting. Are you excited about it? I always love those beginnings. Beginnings are the best part. Other name wasn't available, my friend. It's good to see you. How you been, buddy? Did you have a good weekend? Thank you for coming on back. You're here all the time. I appreciate you, man. Spike, I think it was. Spikey. What do you think about that I have made a calendar that I write day by day in the story what happened? That's cool, Spikey. That's a fun idea. I think that sounds really fun. Are you enjoying it? That's what matters most. The author has to be the first person to enjoy the story before the readers, because the readers can tell if you are having fun when you are writing. They really can, man. Tam, good to see you. Hello, my friend. How you doing? Thanks for joining me today. Guys, if I'm hoarse today, I apologize. I had 3 events at Loud Spaces for multiple hours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so I'm a little bit hoarse. Suki Kuni, you said, have you ever read manga? I haven't yet. I'm interested in it. I would certainly like to. Hey, you know what? I get that question a lot, so how about we make a little resolution right here? How about in 2026 I read my first manga? What should it be? Let me know, y'all. Z, how do I make my characters suffer? I mean, you give them, you highlight what they want, something that they deeply desire, and then you don't give it to them, and you show us how that makes them feel, essentially. Suffering should be more than just physical pain. Such a Child says, what's your first project? Let's see here. Here's a lot of my books that are published now. My first one was right down here, Warden. It's a trilogy. So I guess that would have been my first one. Let me see. Y'all, if I missed your question, please do ask it again. I do want to answer them all, but sometimes it just goes too quick for me to catch them all. What's my favorite dinosaur? I'm a Dilophosaurus fan. Big time. I think those guys are awesome. Tam, you said, I'm glad I live in a country that's relatively cheap so I can write full time. Hey, rock and roll, man. That works. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Writing's writing. Levy, you said, how did you develop your writing habit? I read a lot as a kid. I really enjoyed books. And that just kind of transitioned into me wanting to write my own stories. I had a lot of time after school and middle school and high school, and I just used that time to write and then just kind of never stopped. And then, in college, a lot of great time to write. And then once I got my first job, I would work 9 to 5 and then write at the library in the evenings after that, 4 days a week. We get Fridays off. At least we did back then. Mad Gamer asked, how likely is it to get my writing adapted into a comic? Probably not likely. I would need to be the one taking the initiative on that. And it's not... I don't believe it is financially worth my time. Maybe it blows up and sells massively, and I'm just wrong about this. But I would need to start that or have a comic book publisher that thought there was enough profit in it approach me. And both of those things are relatively unlikely, I think, at least at this point. I can't read that name because I don't read Cyrillic. But you said, what's your publisher? So I'm published through a couple publishers. So like this one right here, and this one, and this trilogy. This is through Portal Books. This one's primarily through Audible. That's our deal is with Audible for that. Same with this one. And then this one is self-published, and I sold the audio rights to Sound Booth Theater. So I'm kind of in between. I have half of my books with publishers, the other half are self-published, and I sell the audio rights to publishers. So kind of a hybrid author, I would say. Z, what's my favorite book? I'm a big Jurassic Park fan. But I think my favorite book right now, Fellowship of the Ring. I'm rereading it, and it's so good. The writing is special. Norseman, am I working on different books, or am I working on one? I do one at a time, mostly. I'm just a one-track mind kind of guy. I know some folks do 2 at a time, maybe 3. 3 might be pushing it, but it's really about what works for your creative flow, you know? Spider emoji asked, what's your hardest... Oh, I'm sorry, I missed a video app. Sean, good to see you, my guy. You can handle this, said hi. What's up, buddy? Welcome in. Appreciate y'all being here. Handle this. You said you're sick and want to go to bed. Oh, man. Hey, just kick back, relax. I hope you can rest up. That's how you get better, you know? I hate this American philosophy of working when you're sick. Lord Caltraz, you could be an Asmongold lookalike. All right. Lord, there we go. We're getting the counter up again. There it is, 91 on the counter. It's a good day for it. Welcome in, buddy. Good to have you. Sorry, where was that question? You said, what's the hardest part of my job? By spider emoji? Editing. I hate editing. I'm terrible at it. I go slow at it. I don't want to do it. It's really important. You got to do it, guys. But editing. Definitely editing. Cheyenne, you said, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. I've been here pretty regularly, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'm glad to see you again. Welcome on back. How you been doing? Alex Mole, here's a good question. You said, what makes a perfect book? 2. Or no, that was just what makes a perfect book. I thought the question mark was a book 2. I think a perfect book? Perfect's hard. I guess, but you said what makes a perfect book. So what makes a perfect book? I think the correct culmination of a bunch of different elements. You need a good plot that's interesting to follow. You need deep, layered characters that grow and improve over the course of the book. You need a well-built world that's fascinating but doesn't reveal all of its secrets. And you just need a basic premise that hooks your readers in right away. I think if you achieve those 4, man, you're rocking and rolling. Thank you for the follows, everybody. I appreciate that. Aki, you were never into books until Game of Thrones, and it went on from there. Hey, that's a good place to start. What have you been reading lately? What have you transitioned to these days? Man Black, are my books physical or digital? They are in physical, digital, and audiobook. So paperback, print, and audiobook. Any format you want, they're all there. They're linked in my bio. They're available pretty much anywhere books are sold. What's my preferred method for recording and or writing your thoughts? I will just jot them down wherever I'm at. If I'm out in the world, I'll put them in my phone and as a reminder. I mean, I have like 4 thoughts from the weekend that are going to trigger at 9 a.m. here on my phone, and I'm going to type them into the computer and like save them so I can take action on them. So I mean, honestly, my preferred method for recording or writing my thoughts is simply to write them down. Sometimes I'll voice note them if they're like long. But yeah. New player, my books are not on Spotify. All my audiobooks are through Audible. Happy Days Ahead, what makes a good horror novel? I mean, horror, suspense, characters you care about so you feel bad when things happen to them. Particularly bad things. And I think a good monster / villain and I prefer really tense moments of anticipation. I think horror lives and dies in the moments when we are expecting the horror to hit, and it draws it out and makes us wait for it, um, and that would have been awesome. That's where it really makes its money. Sung Moon, hello. You just got out of the pool. Must have been a heated pool up there in Scandinavia. You got to be cold. Opinions on using Grammarly to help edit chapters, asked Jago Tasano. I've never used Grammarly personally. I think it does a good job from what I hear. It's not a replacement for a proper editor, though. It's good for your first pass, but I think you still need an editor if you're going to be publishing, to make money. If you're just doing it for fun, then you don't need to spend money on an editor. Do the best you can, publish it, and especially if you're on like a web novel site or something where people are reading it, they'll give you feedback. They'll catch a lot of your mistakes, and you'll improve as you go. Did it cost money to fund my books or help develop them? Yeah, mainly just like cover art is the big one. That's where most of my budget goes, and then. That's really it. It's cover art and editor. Those are the two things that I never skimp on. So shout out to Ivan Shavrin, who did the art for my most recent book here. Rakia, you said, what are your thoughts on adaptations butchering the book's original plot, like The Witcher? It's a shame. I get why it happens. Sometimes it's a different format. Movies and TV are a different format than books, so you have to change the story on some level. But I think that there's also a level where ego comes into play and people make changes because they think it's better and they need to respect the original source material more. So yeah, it's a shame to see when it happens. Sung Moon, you said you're on vacation at Gran Canaria right now. 20-ish degrees compared to the negative 14 at home. Well, enjoy that. Lovely, Sung Moon. Thanks for tuning in on vacation, man. I'm glad to have you here. You got any other fun plans while you're there? Ooh, Fat Frog, that's a really good point. You said Grammarly wants to use proper grammar, which isn't always the best for how to tell your story. That's true. M dashes, semicolons, interrupted thoughts, incomplete sentences. These are all things that are an essential part of writing, particularly fiction. And Grammarly, if it's tuned for professional writing, might not like you doing those things. Torta, you said ChatGPT did a good job on that book. Talking about my cover. Well, unless Ivan Shavrin is also ChatGPT, it wasn't done by ChatGPT. It was done by a real human being. Kind of rude to Ivan. He does incredible work. I like it a lot. Am, what do you think of the book I Have No Mouth and I'm a Screen? I think it's terrifying. It's one of the few stories that, I think because of its shortness, its brevity, it really sticks with me. I read it, I don't know, a decade ago, and I still remember it. It still pops up in my head randomly. Let's see. Sumerne, you said, be honest, are you just a British author? No, I am American, my friend. I do like England. I do like the UK, though. Wales, specifically. I'd love to live over there. HC Noah, you said favorite book you've read. Probably Lord of the Rings. I like Jurassic Park, though, too. Anything by Joe Abercrombie. Terry Pratchett, of course, an absolute classic. Rafi, what's up? Good to see you, my guy. You said you're half asleep, but you made it. Hey, that counts. That counts. We'll wake you up as the stream goes on. Grab a cup of coffee. Join us here today, buddy. Spiky, you said, any tips on what to do when you do a massive world building project? It depends on what you want, right? If you're writing for fun, there's no downside to just continually building the world and expanding it as much as you want. If you're writing to make money or to publish on a schedule, there's a certain amount of world building that makes sense, and then you got to actually get into the actual writing. It's also stylistic. I prefer soft world building where details about the world are revealed naturally in conversation or through demonstrated scenes instead of just like it being told. So when you do soft world building, you tend to have less opportunity to delve into world building. So it tends to have less world building, but that's personal taste. Local, good to see ya. I'm sorry you're sick. So many people are sick today. Y'all, you gotta heal up together. Get some warm soup, cuddle up under the covers, sleep a lot, chill. I need y'all healthy again. Sorry to hear everybody's sick today. Maybe it's this winter weather, at least for the northern hemisphere. Um, Vid D, you said I've got a story in my head for a long time, but I can't put it to paper. How do I start? Um, what in this situation, what I would do is think of the coolest, craziest scene that you're just most excited about in the whole story, and start with that. You can always edit it later, but just write that scene down, and then go back and write what happened before and what happens after. But start with the moment that's just so cool for you, the defining moment of the story. Um, Y'all, if I missed your question, please do ask again. I want to get them all. There's just too many sometimes. Um, I do not know that Japanese light novel series, Nichtravok. Pug, any tips for naming places? Have fun with it, first of all, but then I think it's about having an equal. Okay, my answer is coming from a fantasy perspective. That's primarily what I write. So I like to do my place names as a mix between actual geographic things that exist there, and just like vaguely hinted at things from the lore. So I think it's fun to you might name a dead forest like Birchbone Forest, right? If there's a lot of birch trees and they're dead or whatever, like it has like a dry kind of feeling, but it's got the name, it's got the climate, the foliage in the name, and then half the time I think you should just call something like Thorbum's Fists or something, and don't elaborate on it. I think that is another example of soft world building essentially. Billy, do I have any advice for starting a world? You love world building but can't get the first step. Um, if you're having trouble realizing the world, I like to find a list of interview questions. There's plenty of those online, especially for writing exercises, and go through those with my world in mind. Questions that tend to spur me and get the creativity going are things like, what are the holidays in this world? What's a big celebration that might happen? What's a more sad day in this world, day of remembrance or something like that? And then are there certain days that are related to, cosmic events? Are there eclipses? What do people do on those? Are there certain rapid seasonal changes at times? These minutia that you consider, I feel like it forces you to come up with answers, which then you just naturally expand into the bigger elements of world building. Maddie, you asked, how did I find my publisher? So let's see, if we go through them. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Here we go. My Portal Books, who I started out with, I was a ghostwriter for many years. Not many years, 2 years. Felt like many years. I was a ghostwriter for 2 years, and I just made connections in the publishing industry. And Portal Books was one of those. I actually met one of the founders at a book event in London, and ended up at the pub with him and several others afterward, and we got to talking and kind of went from there. But it really just has to do with being in the industry in some aspect, and you're going to make those connections. Or you could Portal and several other publishers I work with, they have open submissions. So if you want to write for them, you can submit your book through their website, and if they're interested in it, they will reach out and go from there. Local, you can absolutely make a suggestion for world building that helps you a lot. Please do. Jago, any tips on how to write naval combat? You know what? I've never done that, and I don't think I have really any advice on that, man. What time period are you talking about? I guess, though, I could boil it down to kind of like any combat. It's irrelevant if there aren't clearly defined stakes that we understand about what happens if the main characters win and what happens if they lose. And the combat itself can be cool and dramatic, and should be. But it should also be a microcosm or an analogy for the larger story. Combat should always pull double or triple duty in your story. It should be cool and dramatic. It should also speak to the stakes of the story. and we should understand the consequences for the characters involved. That's what makes combat really good. Curious Flamekeeper, what's your process when writing antagonists that feel alive with motivations that make sense? My main thing is to make sure each of my villains believes that they are the main character of the story and that they have a good reason for what they're doing. And that good doesn't mean that they are, morally aligned. It is a good reason, but it is a reason to them that makes sense, that they believe is important. It's really just about making sure that they feel realistically motivated. Man Black, when creating my books, what part am I stuck on creating? If I try to plot ahead of time too much, I get stuck in the weeds. If I just write, things tend to work out. So I'm trying to do that more. Favorite Gothic author, asked Robbie. I mean, like Gothic time period or kind of Gothic like genre? I don't even know if Gothic's a time period. I'm not sure. I'm gonna say right now, I really liked Alex E. Harrow's darker writing. I think she does horror in a way that I really enjoy. Again, if I missed your question, I apologize. Please ask it again. I do want to answer them. Fat Frog, I appreciate you, my guy. You said on stream days you do your best to get your work done before I go live, so you can watch. Man, thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate you, Frog. Thanks for always being here, man. I appreciate your energy. And your avatar. It's fun to look at when I watch the chat scroll by. Squirrel Monkey, do you like Dungeon Crawler Carl? Yeah, it's good. It's good. I enjoy it. It's very clever writing. It just seems like it's vapid comedy on the surface, but there's a darkness and a depth to it that's really good. And Matt Dinneman's a great guy. Monica, should writers take creative writing classes? You can if you want to. I'm not sure they are worth it. I think that there is value that can be extracted from them. There are things you can learn, but I think the best education you can get in creative writing is to read a lot of books in the genre you love and want to write. Read a couple books outside of that genre, and then just write your butt off, man. Just practice, and don't write and refine that project and write and refine that project. Write a project to finish, give it an editing pass, write the next project, repeat. You're going to benefit more from starting new projects and finishing them. That's important. And then starting the next one than you are from endlessly editing one project. Local, you had asked if you could give your advice on world building and naming, and you said base some things on IRL names, like cultures you think are cool. Take influence from other books as well. Yeah, those are good answers. Darkness, I see you saying answer me, but I don't see your question. Ask it again for me, please. And E, you said I kind of look like Asmongold. Well, there's the third one today. Up it goes. There we go. Asmongold counter rises once again. E, welcome in, my guy. Hope you're doing well today, and I appreciate you being here. Freakazoid said, do I write chapter overviews and then write my draft? Yeah, sometimes. I tend to do overviews, a bit of a maybe too involved word. I will do one sentence that highlights the main point of the chapter, and then I'll allow myself 2 to 3 bullet points beneath it if I have ideas of, like, I need to do this in this chapter, it's setting up something for later. That being said, this is a personal thing. There's kind of 3 ways to do it. You do very detailed outlining ahead of time. You do skeleton outline, which is kind of a less heavy outline, or you make it up as you go. Try all 3, see what works best for you. It works better for some people than others. Or is it Johan? You said, I've been writing something with a lot of Christian themes and world building. Is it possible to mess this up? In what way? Writing it depends on what you're going for, right? If you're just writing for yourself, then as long as you're enjoying it, nothing else matters. If you're writing to publish or writing for a fan base, I mean, keep in mind what you think they want and what they expect from your writing. But messing it up is the good thing about writing is you can always edit it, right? You can always improve it later. Don't worry about messing up. Worry about having fun while you're working on it. Um, let's see. Canucka Duck. That's a funny name. And Manon, good morning, my friend. Good to see you. Rambo, you said, hey, Alex, hope all's well. Welcome in, my guy. I appreciate you being here. Darkness84, you said, what's Queen Elizabeth's favorite food? I have no idea. I'm going to say tteokbokki. Canucka Duck, you said, what's the first book you think of when you think of ones you loved as a kid? Ooh, as a kid, I really loved the Dragonlance Chronicles. I bring that up a lot on stream. It's like classic fantasy for me, starter fantasy. What is it? The first one's like Dragons of Autumn Twilight, I believe. Loved it. What about you, Canuck? Bucky the Elf, any tips for writing or for scheduling writing around other obligations? I think if you're really busy and you can't find time to sit down and write, any amount of words you get down in the in-between time are very valid. Also, if you just have a few minutes, feel free to just record a voice note of your ideas. Just talk into the phone, and record it. And then when you do have time, come back and write it out. Writing doesn't have to be physical writing. It's just getting your ideas down onto the page, be it a digital page, a physical page, or a phone, voice recorder on your phone. Andre over on Video App, you said, what would you focus on explaining writing an MC descending into madness as he rises to godhood? Andre, what I would show in that situation, establish early on things the character cares deeply about. Maybe he's taking care of a relative. Maybe there's, some goal he's working towards. And as he rises to godhood and goes more insane, you need to show that character forgetting or stopping caring about those things you established early on, and don't make it a logical reason. If you're trying to make them go insane, I think they need to be detached from the things that made them human, and the things that make us human are often the things we care about. I'd say give that a try. Let me know how it works. E131_G, is copywriting within the front matter of a book necessary before publishing on KDP? No, so the copyright page on a book is just explaining that you have copyright and giving information about where that copyright can be looked into. But the book is copyrighted in your name when you write it. You don't have to state it. It is done by the act of you writing the book. That being said, you can file copyright on it. You can submit for it. There's a government agency that handles that. You send them a small fee. They send you back a letter establishing it. You don't have to do this, but if you're expecting legal trouble or expecting a legal challenge, it's good to have that. That being said, all the authors I know don't do it. I haven't done it, and we've been lucky we haven't had any issues with it. But the copyright is created when you create the work. It just happens. That's what the law says. Jarek, do authors purposely make a character aura farm? Yeah, we do. Look, we like our characters, right? Sometimes you just want to make them look awesome and let them bask in the moment. Especially if it's a self-insert fiction or a power fantasy, then absolutely. Pre-D said, oh my god, I have a question. When teachers tell us to write what the author was thinking during a something, it's a blank, do they ask you all first? That's good. No, they don't. They definitely don't. That is an exercise in it's teaching you to consider the text and think about why an author might have written something the way that they did. It's a critical thinking exercise. It's also interesting because what we were thinking when we wrote it, I don't believe matters. There's a disconnect between what I'm thinking when writing the story and what you're thinking as you read the story. And if what you think when reading it is different than what I thought when writing it, that's still valid. That is your interpretation of my story, and it's every bit as valid as my interpretation as I was writing it. If anything, I think it's the magic of storytelling. That I can think something, put it on the page, someone else can read it, and grow it into something else. I think that's really freaking cool. Thank you for the follows, by the way. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all y'all. The Blackbird, you said good art on the background. Did you make that? I did not, but thank you. The background art is the back cover of my newest book, Wriggly Little Hands. It's done by Ivan Shavrin, is the cover artist. He's credited on the first page of the book when you open it up. And my background here, I'll turn my camera off a moment. There we go. This is just the expanded cover. So like on the right side is the front cover, and the tower on the left is the full back cover of the book. So shout out to Ivan Shavrin. Another Asmongold reference. Thank you for pinning that, Mod. I'm not sure which one it was, but thank you. The Asmongold counter climbs again. There we go. Up to 93 today. Welcome in, my friends. It's a pleasure to have you. There we go. Someone asked, do I play Magic? I do. I have played a lot of Magic the Gathering in my day, and Dungeons and Dragons. I love them both. They're great. I'm not playing Magic currently, though. Kind of go in and out of it, you know? Peyton, welcome in, buddy. You said, what are your thoughts on writers now using AI to create books? AI is a bad tool for writing. I don't think it can... AI is a very good prediction machine. It predicts what text it thinks you want, and it's very good at that. That does not mean it's good at originality and creating things from scratch. I don't use it myself at all, so I can't speak from an educated place if it's good for editing or if it's good for story ideation. So I'm not the best to answer that question. But for the act of physically writing, I don't believe that it does a good job. And second of all, you are stunting your growth as a writer by leaning on a tool like that, because you're not going to become a carpenter and have someone else do all the work for you, right? You're never going to be a better carpenter. At that point, you're just a middleman who's contracting a carpenter. If you want to be better at writing, you got to write and you got to practice it. Bo on Video App, good morning, my friend. Sir Paint, good morning to you as well. Welcome in, folks. Good to see you. Andre, I have not read The Lord of Mysteries, but I hear a lot about it. I know it's really popular right now. Hysterics, you said, what's the Asmongold counter? I get told I look like Asmongold a lot, but without the hair. So we've started counting how many times it gets brought up. So since I started streaming, it's been brought up at least 93 times. I'm sure I miss a lot of references. And also, I didn't start this until like 6 months into streaming. That's just a fun little thing we do. Local, you said you copyrighted your art, your work, and it did help you out. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Like I said, the copyright's created when you create the work, but I believe what you mean is you sent away to the government agency, got the official paperwork over it and everything. I'm glad you did that, and I'm glad it worked for you. I'm also glad I haven't needed to do that. It's not a difficult process, but it just means it's been smooth sailing for the most part, you know? Notorious Art, you said, do I DM or am I just a player? I've only been a player so far, but from what I can tell, DMing... Oh, my camera's blurry. Thank you for that. Let me fix it real quick. Hold, please. Aha! Crystal clarity or something close. I've only played DMD as a player, but DMing seems a lot like being an author. I think it's really close, and when I find the time, I've got a campaign set up with some friends that I'm going to DM, so we're going to see how it is. Local, who's your uncle? I want to know. Blurry Face, you said, I'm actually trying to make a book in which Jesus is just a person to an omniversal self, and features part 2, waiting on a part 2 maybe. Chicken Strips said, how much reading should I do when learning? I get the urge to write as soon as I read. I think they go hand in hand. I think be reading books frequently in the background and also writing. So like do an amount of reading each day and an amount of writing each day. That'd be my goal to you, my challenge to you. In Taurus Art, you said as a DM and a writer, it is very similar. Rock and roll. I'm glad to hear that. Local, you said Sir Isaac Newton? You serious? Christopher, have you ever read or watched the Vinland Saga? I started watching it. I watched about season 1. I thought it was really interesting. I hadn't seen an anime that was so historical like that. I mean, obviously it isn't completely historical, but just that was set in a setting that stayed relatively grounded. There wasn't like a lot of magic and stuff, at least not in the first few episodes. Thought that was really interesting. Choco, is manga a good start to get into writing as a high school student? Sure, absolutely. There's no real bad place as long as you're passionate about it and stick with it, whatever, the best thing you can do for starting an art like this is be excited about it. So if you're excited about it, be that comic books, be that reading, be that writing actual books, be that writing manga or graphic novels or screenplays, whatever, as long as you're excited about it and you have fun with it, that's the best place to start. Do it for yourself before anybody else. Do it to entertain yourself, and you'll never go astray. Nicterwalk, do I have a tight schedule? Yeah, I try to keep a tight schedule. I try to write a book every 2 to 2.5 months. I am presently 2 days behind on my current schedule, but we're going to see if we can make some time up today. Olej, good to see you again. Oh, wait, no, oil. You said it was said like oil, right? Good to see you again, my guy. Welcome in. Damien, what do I use to make my maps? I use inkcarnate.com for my map streams. I'll put it in chat there. Chicken strips, I said I challenge you to read and write. Read books and write your own stories. You said I accept that challenge. Should I focus on a single book? Such as like 5 chapters of a single book each day? It's probably, if you're talking about for your writing journey, not just reading for your own pleasure, yes, you should stick to a book or two because it's valuable to read and consume how a story begins, how it goes through the second act, and how it ends. So I would definitely, you don't have to read just one book at a time. You can read 2 or 3, but just make sure you commit to finishing them because that's valuable for your education as a writer. Oil, I did look up Poland, the places you mentioned in Poland after stream. Thank you for bringing those up, and thanks for coming back. It's good to see you again. Peace, you said if I do a little math and a little science each day, would that help with your writing? I don't know. I think having a broad education is never a bad thing, so probably, I don't think it would hurt. You can look at authors like Michael Crichton, who was really interested in technology, and his interest in technology drove him to writing tech thrillers like Airframe or Jurassic Park. Those are all thrillers based in science, and he brought his passion into it. So if you like math and science, you can bring those into your books. I mean, look at what Andy Weir does with The Martian and with Project Hail Mary. He brings his engineering, his NASA background into his books, and it makes them better. So use the things that you're passionate about in your writing. Do Play Magic said, give us the top 5 things to not do when writing characters. I don't think there's much to not do when writing characters. I think anything can work. I think it's more about things that you should do, like make them distinct from one another, give them distinct voices, give them flaws. Like, I guess if we're going to go for things you shouldn't do, you shouldn't have a character that doesn't grow or change at all over the course of the book. Asterisk, unless you're writing a neutral character arc, in which case the character is supposed to be the one who's right, and their character growth is to convince the world around them that they are correct and make the world change. It's a very niche subject. You don't see it done a lot. By and large, the character should grow and change, and one of the ways to do that is by making them flawed initially and have them overcome that flaw to become a better person by the end of the book. Again, guys, if I missed your question, I apologize. Please do ask away, and ask again if I miss it, because I do want to answer them. King Luke MTG said, how many books have you written, and are you self-published or no? So King, I've published 11 books now. These are the book ones, at least, around here. Some of these have sequels. Probably a third of them are self-published. The other 2/3 are with publishers, all smaller publishers. And then audiobook companies like Audible, Podium, Sound Booth Theater. So I'm a true hybrid author, for sure. Lapanu over on Video App, you said hello. Well, hello. Welcome in. Thank you for joining me today. And thank you for the follows, everybody. I appreciate y'all. Chicken Strips, you're very welcome, my friend. Misfit Mikey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you again. You said characters need limitations. Yeah, sure. Limitations are I like to say it as this: constraints create creativity. by not being able to do a thing, you have to find an alternate solution, and often really good ideas come from it. Brent, what's my genre? I write primarily fantasy, like these up here. That's really where I like to exist, and I'm leaning more towards comedy fantasy these days, like Terry Pratchett type stuff. But I also do lit RPG. If I can get my cup out of the way, lit RPG like down here. Corned beef. Where can you enjoy, or where can you buy my books? You can buy them pretty much anywhere books are sold, but mainly they're linked in my bio. It'll link to like Amazon, Audible. You can get them at barnesandnoble.com. So pretty much anywhere you buy books. You can also get them from my local bookstore. That's linked in my bio as well if you want to support a small independent bookstore down here south of Houston. Ooh, I love this one. Jason, you said, I know what to write, and I have a really good idea. I'm just struggling with a good opening. Here's the beauty of writing, my guy. It's not just one shot all the way through. You can have a bad opening, go on to write the book, and then come back and fix the opening later. So don't feel hung up by having a perfect opening. In fact, the opening is one of the most important parts of the book. I will often come back to the opening as I'm writing and edit it and change it. And the opening is often like, even when I finish the last sentence of the book, I then go back to the opening again and read it again and double check it. So you can always make the opening or any part of the story better. So don't let rough writing early on stop you from continuing through the story. Lapanu, you said, I have a question. I am trying to write about a dead lover in my poem. How should I do it? I mean, however feels right to you. It depends on what emotions you want to convey. Is it a story that's, or is it a poem that's looking back and enjoying the memories? Is it a sad poem of grief? Like, that's up to you. It's really about how you want to write it. But if you want a poem about a dead lover, I highly recommend Porphyria's Lover. It's a very good poem from the Victorian era. You said, I'm sad that I don't live in English, so I can't buy. You mean America? You can buy my books outside of America. They are available internationally as well. Oh boy, so many questions, y'all. I apologize if I miss it. Feel free to ask again. I do want to answer them all. Most lit RPGs are like virtual reality. You don't like that, says David. That's okay. Not your genre. Totally fine. Local, you said your opening starts with the main character as a child watching everything burn. Dramatic. Needs a metal soundtrack in the background of that, I feel like. The Raven's Quill, how often do I stream? I stream Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 a.m. Central. Mondays we do Q&A. Wednesday's a wild card. We don't know what we're going to do. And over on Fridays, we make fantasy maps like these live on stream. So please do come back. We'd love to have you on other streams. Local, that's amazing. Rock and roll. I did not know that. But hey, I'll take you at your word. I trust you on it. That's super cool. I wonder what that's like, having an uncle that famous. A asked, how hard is it to make a good and interesting villain and not a cliche one? Don't worry about cliches too much. People worry too much about cliches. Cliches are just tropes done badly, and tropes done well make books really good. People like tropes. They inform us what to expect, and they set up expectations that can later be subverted if that's the direction you want to go. So when writing your villain, don't worry about making them cliche. Worry about making them a main character. I think that almost all villains should believe that they are the protagonist of the story. That what they're doing is right and or necessary, and they have to be doing it. They believe in their own cause. They're drinking their own Kool-Aid. I think as long as that's the case, you'll have a compelling villain. Fat Frog, you said, I've mentioned in the past about interviewing characters. What would I ask them to help? You're talking about like with making a better villain, or just what would I ask them in an interview? In general, what I'll do is I'll go and just pull a generic list of interview questions. You can find them for, journalism courses will post them. You can find them for author resources. I like to pull them from different areas because they have different objectives based on, did it come from a journalism school? Did it come from a writing class, etc.? And I like to kind of vary between those sets of questions and ask my characters them. Because it's just, they're questions you might not think of, and they give you answers in ways you might not expect. Let's see, did that make my camera blurry? No, we're good. Lapanu, you asked, how do you make a side character cool but not overwhelming for the main one? I think it's really about the number of lines that you give them on the page. Side characters can be infinitely interesting. They just shouldn't be focused on more than the main character. When you're writing, there's something I like to think of as the focus. What is the focus of the current moment? Typically, it's the character speaking or the character that's being described or that's doing something. So as long as your side characters don't do more, be focused on more, or speak more than your main characters, they're going to remain side characters. Gumdropper said, how do you write a hero not be too OP? Or too like Mary Sue-ish? Give them nuance, give them flaws. Flaws are a big one. And make the story, the solution to the story should mirror their journey to overcome their flaws. When the character solves their flaw, when they grow as a person, it should give them the ability to solve the story. So my main answer is tie their powers, tie their effectiveness as a character to their growth as a character. Don't just make them perfect right off the bat, you know? Give them challenges and flaws. Scott, do you know the direction and endings when you're writing? Vaguely. I vaguely know them. It allows me to pivot in the moment and come up with new ideas, because that's often where my best creative ideas come from. And I don't like to be, tacked down ahead of time, pitted down. That being said, it's a personal choice. There's kind of three ways to do it. There's a really detailed outline, there's a slim outline, which is what I typically do, and there's no outline. Make it up as you go. You got to try all three to figure out what you like. Madman, you said, is it scary to think people won't read your work? I'm so scared of that. I mean, yeah, it'd be disappointing. I love all my books. I work really hard on them. This is one of my favorite books that I've written. Total flop. Massive financial bomb when it came out. I'm still contracted to write the sequels, so I'm doing so, and I'm finishing the trilogy. I think it's an incredible story. It just didn't do well. I just didn't launch well. So that's always a fear. The thing is, you just have to continue pushing beyond that and just work on the next project. Anybody that's successful will tell you they've failed more times than the beginner has even tried. It's just about it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. It's old, it's cliched, it's true. I don't know, it's a letter I don't recognize for your username, but your question was, what's the difference between inspiration and imitation? Sometimes I feel like I'm just copying. So this is something I see a lot with new authors. They're afraid that they are just copying other people's work. And the reality is, it's kind of what we're all doing. Everything that you take in that inspires you, that interests you, feeds into your creative output. Input equals output, right? So don't worry that you're copying other people's work, as long as it's not a blatant copy and you stole every single plot point or every single character. It's okay to be influenced by the stuff you enjoy. And the reality is, everybody, whether they want to or not, is influenced by what they take in: movies, videos, books, songs, etc. So don't worry about it. Every story in the world's already been told, but it hasn't been told by you. Your unique voice, the way you see the world, the way you think about things, what you choose to describe in a scene, how you choose to have a character speak, these are what make your story unique, and voice is an incredibly powerful element in making it a unique story. Millie, is the coffee perfect? It's pretty good. Maybe a little bit oversweet, but it was too bitter and I added more sugar. It's a pretty good cup of coffee today. Lapanu on Video App, you said, I have a question. If your character were to meet you as well, would they like you or hate you? If you knew you gave them their trauma. I don't think they'd be happy about the fact that I made life more difficult for them, but I hope they'd be happy about the fact that I also made them grow past that and become a better, cooler, more interesting character because of it. So maybe not at first, but maybe hopefully they would understand that the reason obstacles were put there was so they could rise above them. Malinoe, I think, like the main character from Hades 2, you said, how do you start a story you have ideas for? Just start writing them. Or, if you're having trouble finding the beginning, pick the moment in the story that's just the coolest to you. What's like the most amazing moment in the story that you're super excited about? And write that moment first. Then you can go back and write stuff before it if needed, or stuff after it, but start with a thing that excites you the most, because foremost, your story has to be something that you enjoy and you are entertained by. Z and Z said, what did you write? I've written probably nothing you've heard of. I'm a small fry author. But here's my books. They're all linked in my bio. Mostly fantasy. It's fantasy up top. It's a lit RPG down below. I have 11 published novels. They're linked in my bio if you want to buy them. They're on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, etc., etc. They're paperbacks, they're ebooks, they're audiobooks. Please feel free to check them out. Streaming's my part-time gig I do for fun. Writing's how I keep food on the table. Bread Tato said, how do you actually sell books? Oh my God, what a question. Man, I wish that I had a better answer for you. I'm still figuring that out. If I had cracked that code, I would be doing better financially than I am. I'm doing okay, but I think the reality is there's a lot of luck. And then you need to find an avenue that works for you. Maybe you get really good at running ads on Amazon. Maybe you get really good at running ads on Facebook. Maybe you get really good at engaging with the community and finding your readers through that. Maybe you just get lucky. That's the one we'd all like. You just launch the book and for some reason it finds its audience and it takes off. There's a bunch of different ways to sell books. I am bad at all of them so far. Buff Nerd Josh, what's up, buddy? Good to see you again. You just bought the Far Wild on Audible. Thank you, man. I hope you enjoy it. That one is an interesting read because the Audible book, the audio book, Audible did an interesting thing with multiple narrators that a lot of readers didn't like. So I hope that you enjoy it. Also, it was one of my older books, and I used coarser language in it. And then on the second edition, so the current print edition, I edited a lot of that out, made it a little more family-friendly, language-wise at least. So just know the audiobook edition you're getting is a little bit different than the paperback or the ebook edition, but the story is still the same. It's just a little bit of set dressing is different. But I hope you enjoy it, my guy. It is one of my favorites. And thank you very much. I appreciate you. Luke Off said, which of your books or series would you most like to see adapted into movies or TV? Okay, this one, Servant of Rage, would be visually stunning. Very dramatic, cool magic, like Dragon Ball Z-esque. That would be awesome to see in a visual medium. This one is just really goofy and it would work so well in animation. I mean, look at the cover for it. It's begging to be an animated movie. I think it would do great in that format. I'm Go Schleep said, what authors inspired you? Joe Abercrombie. Love his dark fantasy. Love his characters. Terry Pratchett. I love his world building and his comedy. Douglas Adams, same answer, comedy, world building. And I really like Michael Crichton for his thrillers. I think they're really, really good. So those guys kind of inspired me. Have I done writing for comics? I have not. I've never done that. Sung Moon, if you could choose one book to become a movie or series, which one would you choose? Wriggly Little Hands. I love that this book brings people so much joy. This one's like really tense and dramatic, right? Like Thriller, Jurassic Park-esque. This one is like a really crazy action scenes and a little bit of heartbreak, and it kind of gets you. Those are great emotions, but I love that this just makes so many people laugh and gives them so much joy. So this is the one that I would go with. Thank you for the follows, everybody. I appreciate you. I hear those coming in, and just know that I appreciate it. Question from Chad Chadley. I love that name. How important is cover art? Massively. I would say, in terms of selling books, cover art is the most important thing you could do. I think it's a 3-step process. Cover art is the first thing that hooks potential buyers. They see your art, they get interested. Second thing is the title. Once they're looking closer because they liked your cover art, they're going to look at the title. You need to have a good title that continues to draw them in, and then you need a good pitch. That could be the opening lines, the opening paragraphs of the book. It could be the back cover blurb, but I think that's the process. Cover art, title, pitch are how you draw people in. And then you need a good book to follow that. But I think if you're going to spend the most money on anything in your book, it needs to be cover art, and it's got to be good. Zero said, if you're not a good writer but have a really good story, what's recommended? Practice. It doesn't matter if you're not a good writer, you'll get better. It's one of the beautiful things about writing. You just get better the more you do it. It's literally just time and effort, and you get better. And also, you don't need to be like an amazing writer to tell a good story. There are different elements of storytelling that make stories engaging. Maybe you're not the best at plotting, you're not the best at plot twists, maybe you're not the best at character voice, but maybe you're really good at descriptions and really good at making us understand how a character feels in a given moment. There are aspects of writing you can be stronger or weaker at, and they are all summed together to average out over the course of the story. And the good thing is you get better at all of them by reading and by writing. It's my favorite thing about writing. It's just about effort in equals creative output. Lapanu, you said, I have an idea for one of my books where he gains insight and gets otherworldly knowledge. Should I make it so they become so knowledgeable that he knows he's in a book? That's a tough one, Lapanu. That's breaking the fourth wall. It can be done well. It's challenging to do early on in your career. I personally don't know how to do it well. I've never attempted it, so I guess I'm not your best answer on that question. I'll just default to what I say. If you're excited about it, give it a shot. I am not the end-all be-all to tell you like what's a good idea and what's not. I'm just as wrong about things as anybody else. So if you think it's cool and you like it, you want to do it, give it a shot. Worst thing that happens is you learn something and you move forward more intelligently. User 475814633848820 said, "Do I write smut?" Not really. I ghost wrote romance for publishers back in the day, but it was always closed door, so it was relatively clean. I've never really written smut or erotica or anything like that. Again, I don't know what the character is in your username. It's some sort of letter. But you said, how do you begin world building? I feel lost at the beginning, and it never feels alive. What I would do then, if you're feeling that way, is don't worry about it. Just write your story and let the world building come about naturally. You could be one of some authors, they write story first and build the world around the story. Completely valid. Give that a try. And don't worry about how the world building feels on your first pass. That's something you can easily go back and in a second pass fix. And if you're having trouble with it, you don't have to delve into the world building too much. One of the coolest things, in my opinion, in like Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, known for his world building, one of the coolest things he did is he has a random mention of the nameless things deep beneath the earth that gnaw at the roots of the world. Gandalf randomly drops this lore of like, yeah, there's these nameless things that live in the deep places, and I won't give their name here for fear they might come to where we are. And then never mentions it again. And it's like, what the heck is that? I don't know, but it's cool, and it makes the world feel bigger and dramatic and deeper. So you don't have to expound on all your world building. Tomato Bruv, you said, what course in college do I recommend to become a professor and major in writing? Or is that, you said prof, do you mean professional or professor? If you want to be a professor, take as many classes as you can in creative writing. The academic world will guide you down the correct path. If you mean a professional, then I don't think you even need classes in writing. I think reading and writing and reading and writing again and again and again is how you get better and better. And that's what you should focus on. Let's see. There was another one. Where was it? Tips for dialogue. Oh, Jack Ann, I'm sorry you have to run. I didn't even see you join today, but thank you for being here, Jack Ann. Hope you have a great day, and rock on. Let's rock this week. You got it. Someone asked for tips on dialogue. Dialogue is spoken, right? We speak in incomplete sentences. We speak in sentence fragments. We speak starting in the middle of a sentence or completing an idea from earlier. You might trail off, etc., etc. Basically, dialogue is not grammatically correct complete sentences all the time. It can have slang, it can have accents. So what I recommend for dialogue is if you're having trouble with it, speak it aloud and then write it down exactly how you spoke it. Or if you've already written it, go back and read it aloud and see what feels like a natural way to say a thing, not to write a thing. Because dialogue is a written version of a spoken sentence, and those are different things. Also, make sure your characters don't sound the same. Theoretically, a really well-written story, the voice of the characters would be so distinct that you would never need a dialogue tag. You would never need Gandalf said, Frodo asked. You would never need that because their speaking is so unique that you know that it's those characters by the way that they speak. That's an aspirational goal that's hard to achieve, but it's theoretically like the best way to do it. It's something to aspire to. Macy, you said, what would you consider to be the hardest genre to write? The one you like the least. If you're not excited about it, I don't think it's going to be easy to write, and you're not going to want to write it. For me personally, historical fiction. I don't want to do all the research required for it, the getting historical facts right, the making sure, like, it's so difficult to write a time period you're not intimately familiar with, because there's so many small everyday things you don't think about, of like, how would they have lit their house at night? Did they have candles, or like was gas coming in at this time? Was electricity a thing? What did the early light bulb look like? How did you turn it on? Was there a switch on the wall? Like, these are all questions you run into, and you got to really know your stuff. So personally, historical fiction for me is the hardest. Sir Paint over on Video App, you said, I sucked at making my characters sound different. Any story I've ever tried to write, that's my #1 issue. Sir Paint, base your character's manner of speech on different famous celebrities or characters. Watch interviews or scenes with those characters, and then emulate your character's speaking style based on that. That's a good, easy way to make them more distinct. And then it's just practice, and don't worry overly much about it. I think most characters are going to come into their own and sound distinct, and you don't have to worry about it too much. I think those basic steps should be enough to get you in the right way, or the right direction. Loot Noodles, fun name. You said, how do I make an interesting power system that's cool but not too overpowered? To make it not too overpowered, you need to not make it too easy on your main characters. They need to have worthy challenges ahead of them that are difficult for them to overcome. And theoretically, they shouldn't just overcome them by trying harder. They should overcome them by growing and learning as a person. Becoming a more complete character gives them the inner strength to persevere and rise above. So as long as your characters have challenges that are meaningful and dangerous, they're not going to feel overpowered. Thank you for all the questions, y'all. I am trying to answer them all. I apologize if I miss it. Please do ask it again, and I will do my best to get it. In Taurus Art, you said, I'm writing a Victorian-era inspired fantasy comic, but the fun about fantasy is I can make it all up. You get it. You get it. That's the joy of fantasy, man. You get to make it up at the end of the day. If someone asks why a thing is, you can go, well, it's because of this, this, and this I established in my world. Or you can say, 'cause it is. And it's a lovely freedom. Kaz, how do you get published? My roommate at college is really worried about her debut book. Okay, Kaz, I love this. Every author that I know, including me, is convinced and hopeful, and should be hopeful, that their debut book's going to be the one, man. It's going to blow up. It's going to put them on the map. They're going to be the next Stephen King. The reality is that doesn't happen for 99.9% of authors with their first book. But here's the thing. That's sad to hear. Here's the hopeful thing. Writing is something that can be tackled through perseverance. Your first book is very not likely to blow up. Your second book, a little more likely to blow up. Your third, a little more likely, because you're improving as an author with each one, and you're just giving yourself more chances, right? You're getting more lottery tickets, essentially. So don't worry overly much about your debut book. Tell this to your roommate. Tell her instead, or he or she, I'm not sure why I said her, but he or she, to write that book, get it out there however they can, whatever their chosen method of publishing is, and then start the next book. Do the same thing. Start the next book. You can win in writing through sheer perseverance, and no one can stop your own effort, right? No one can say, no, you don't get to try anymore. You get unlimited chances, so just keep taking those shots. The good news is, I love to think of it this way, you're always one book away from blowing up. So the one you're writing now could be that book. And if it's not, you're one book away from blowing up. And if your second book doesn't do it, guess what? You're one book away from blowing up. Persistence, man. It'll get you there. Hank, you said, any advice for creating great or good world building? Personally, I prefer world building that's not fully explained. I like when there are details that are given that are interesting but not expanded on, because it allows the reader's imagination to run wild. That being said, that's just what I like. Good world building, I think, is just about making a world that the readers want to explore and want to know more about, and there are various ways to do that. I think the best way to do it is to be excited about your world and to enjoy talking about it and putting it into the story. So make sure it's a world that you find interesting first and foremost. Devin, do I review people's work? I apologize. I don't. I just don't have time. I get too many requests for it. And I also think, hey, most published authors are too busy to review all the work requests they get. But here's the good news. I don't think there's much value in having them review your work, because we know what works for us. We don't know what works for you. And if you're early in your career, someone else can influence your writing too much and pull you away from your distinct voice, your distinct storytelling. I think there's a lot of, good news to be taken from the fact that what's most important in writing is that you have fun with it and that you tell a story that's true to you, and only you know what that story is. So trust yourself above anybody else. I know it sounds hokey. I'm telling you, y'all, trust your creative passion, trust your creative voice. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. First and foremost, you have to like and enjoy your story and do something that you find interesting. That's the best step towards making something good. Sonny, you said, how do I protect my intellectual property in fear of someone taking my idea? This is another very common issue I see with early authors. They're afraid that someone's going to steal their story. This belief, one, it doesn't happen very often. I've very rarely heard of it. Over my career, very rarely heard of it happening. Two, ideas are easy, execution is hard. It's not about having a really amazing original idea that's going to blow everybody's socks off. Every story in the world has already been told, but it hasn't been told by you. Your voice is what makes it unique. If somebody steals your idea, they can't tell that story like you do. It's your idea, it's your story. You're going to tell it best. Don't worry about people stealing it. That being said, once you publish your story, you do also have copyright on it. So it's protected in that way. But the reality is, your voice is what makes your story unique. Lean into that and tell a good story, because ideas are cheap, execution is hard. People aren't just going to steal your idea and cash in on it. It just doesn't happen too often. I've heard of it happening like twice in 8 years of being a professional author. Blonde Mango says, can I write a book that is a superhero theme? Like no images, just I think you mean chapters. Yeah, man, rock and roll. Superhero is a very popular genre. Well, not very popular. It has had its ups and downs, but superhero fiction, totally, absolutely. It's a vibrant genre, particularly in the lit RPG world. There's a lot of books like that, but yeah, absolutely, rock and roll. Calamity, how do I keep my story engaging and not getting stale? It needs to keep moving. Progress needs to be made in order to keep it from getting stale. So as long as the characters are progressing towards their goals, your story is going to feel fresh and new. Also, don't do the same plot point over and over. Your characters should be going to different places, be that physically or in terms of like solving a mystery. They need to be unveiling new steps along the way. The main thing is just a feeling of progress. Keep the story moving along and it won't feel stale. Thank you for all the follows, everybody. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for being here, asking such good questions. Whew. Gotta wake up. Need more coffee today. Kaz, you said, do I take suggestions for book ideas? You don't know how to write, but you're an idea machine. I mean, you're free to shout them out. I have a pretty packed writing schedule, so I've got my next books lined up. But I mean, hey, offer the ideas up. If you're not going to use them, maybe someone will. But it's often, especially for professional authors, I have so many books in the queue that I need to write that I'm kind of locked in. Like if we look at right now, I'm writing the sequel to Wriggly Little Hands. It's going to take me another month and a half. Then I've already signed on to do both sequels for Servant of Rage, so I got 2 more books lined up after that. And I'm currently in talks with publishers to decide if they're going to buy my 4th and 5th books that I have lined up unrelated to this trilogy, just fourth and fifth that I would write this year. So theoretically, I have at least 3 books right now already lined up, with 4 and 5 on the way. Oh, you like the art, Kaz? Thank you. Oh, y'all, I made something. I made something for you. Everybody always asks who my cover artists are, and I do my best to remember their names. But there's some of these, I mean, like, Warden was done in 2018, and I haven't worked with a cover artist again. Not that I wasn't. We had a great relationship. They just stopped doing cover art. So it's hard to remember the names after all these years. So I made this. If you want to know who did my cover art, now it's right there. We got Victor Toth rocking on The Far Wild, Ivan Shavrin on Wriggly Little Hands, Ivan Vujovic on Servant of Rage, the artist known as Yam for Paragon, Raph Herrera-Lomatan for Rise to Glory, and Hugh Pinder for Warden. I made this the other day and I was very happy about it. So there's my cover artist. That being said, if you open the cover page of my books, cover artist is always credited right there on the title page, because I mean, my books are beautiful because of them. Got to give the credit for that, Again, with I don't know the character, I'm going to call you D from now on, because it looks a little bit like a D. Like a swirly on top. You said, how do I stop my word choice from feeling bland? I don't want to inject stuff from a thesaurus. Okay, don't worry about your word choice. Vocabulary is something that will vary as you read more and as you write more. There's a misconception that writers should have this huge vocabulary and use these interesting different words. If you're writing fiction that you want to be consumed, if you're writing commercial fiction, not like literary classics or like the Great American Novel, the next Great American Novel, you want to have an approachable reading level. So you don't want to be confusing your audience with a bunch of words that sound like they came from a thesaurus. Your main objective should be to convey very clearly your ideas, your feelings, your emotions, particularly those of the characters. And that comes from speaking plainly in a way that most people understand. It's okay to have some interesting words in there, but you don't want your readers to be questioning what a word means or having to pause and look it up all the time. Ideally, you want to keep your book at a more lower reading level. This is specifically for commercial fiction that, like, you really want to sell a lot of books. If you're doing this for passion, you're doing this to be a more of a literary fiction type book or like the next Great American Novel, don't listen to that rule. Do what makes sense for those genres. But for my genre, for commercial fiction that's trying to reach a broad audience, I want to be appealing and easy to understand. 10, you said, bro, how do you plan your own story / lore for the books? I typically do a brief outline for the book, as minimal as I can, and then I make up stuff as I go along. I'm experimenting with not having a plot and just writing it as it comes to me and kind of seeing where it goes. Some folks, though, like to have everything detailed ahead of time. Try to do all 3 and see what works for you. I feel like most authors fall into one of those 3 categories, and you really just got to find it through trial and error. Here's an interesting one. Ray Pex said, how do I generate the right balance of power between the protag and the big bad evil guy, the BBEG? I'm going to call the BBEG the antagonist, the bad guy, the main character standing in the way of your protagonist. They should be strong enough that they can and will stop the main character multiple times throughout the book. That makes them feel challenging. What should be the thing that makes the protagonist overcome the antagonist is they need to grow as a character. They need to overcome a flaw that's been holding them back, and through overcoming that flaw, they have become a more full and realized person, can ascend to new heights of power and defeat the antagonist. Basically, the antagonist is the character that stands in the way of your main character, achieving what they want, and they can only achieve what they want by first achieving what they need. They need to have a flaw that holds them back, and in the end of the book, they need to overcome that flaw, which gives them new power and allows them to defeat the antagonist, who they would not have been able to defeat if they hadn't grown as a character. That's a very basic and common and successful character arc. How do you make hooks for stories? Asked Mad Max. Good question. A hook, the first hook is going to be your cover art. The second hook is going to be your title. The third hook is either your back cover copy or the opening lines of your story. A hook needs to be interesting. It should probably catch the reader off guard, and it should make them ask themselves a question, subconsciously or consciously. If the reader asks themselves a question, they're about the story, they're going to want to stay around to get it answered. So a surprising or an engaging opening line often makes the reader ask a question, even if they don't realize it. They'll say like, wait, why did that character do that? Or, ooh, why are they running right now? What is chasing them? These questions are what make a reader, consciously or subconsciously, continue reading your story and gives you more page space, more time to fully hook them into the story. Cube, you said, what made me become an author? Why not anything else? I just loved reading. I loved reading books as a kid. I started writing them, and I found that I loved writing them. And I think it was probably just the thing that I found that I was best at early on and that I enjoyed doing most was reading and writing. And being an author is the way that I get to read and write professionally and spend most of my working hours doing that. So that's why I became it, I think. Nothing really more than that. I love storytelling, and I get to do something I love every day. So, yeah, it's awesome. All right, y'all. I'll take a few more questions here, then I think I'm going to wrap it up because I got some words to write. We are working on the sequel to this book today, so I need to get on to that. So we'll do a few more questions, and then we'll sign off for the day. But shout out if you've enjoyed the stream today. If you want to support me, please check out some of my books. They're all linked in my bio. They're available basically everywhere books are sold. And if any of them look interesting to you, please check them out. They're audiobooks, they're ebooks, they're paperbacks. So any format you want, they're there. I would appreciate it. It supports me and it supports the stream. Real toxic food, you said banana or kiwi. Ooh, that's challenging. I feel like I like both, but bananas are more common, kiwis are more rare. So perhaps I enjoy the kiwis because they're more rare. So I'm going to go with kiwi on this one. Lucy 13. My protagonist becomes a villain at the end, but they don't know it. You think this is a good idea? I think that's a very interesting idea, Lucy. Now, it's hard to achieve because the primary thing that I believe readers are looking for in a story is to have fun and feel good from the story. And a protagonist who becomes a villain might not be an ending that feels good. So you're going to have additional difficulty in making that a satisfying ending for readers. That doesn't mean it's not an interesting story to write or an interesting way to end a book. You're just going to have to be aware that it might not be satisfying, and readers that aren't satisfied might not come back for another book. So be aware of that. That being said, yes, I do think it's very interesting, and if you can pull it off, I think it's awesome. D, you said the advice has been great. Thank you. You're very welcome, my friend. Thank you for the great questions. Seriously thoughtful questions. Inzo, you said, how do I write a character who's in concept bored of everything, not just boring for my reader? So if you're going to do that, it's going to be a risk early on, because if readers come to your book and the character is just bored of everything, it's going to feel boring to them as well. That being said, if you can pivot it soon enough to keep readers interested, what you should do is have that character who's bored of everything find something that absolutely just fascinates them. Something that they just dive full on into, because when they're excited and they're interested, the readers are naturally going to feel that way as well. The worst thing you can do in a book is bore the reader. Make them love a character, make them hate a character, but don't bore them with a character. That's like the number one rule. Mad Max Edits, who's my number one inspiration? Probably Terry Pratchett. I think Terry Pratchett does a wonderful job of making books that are deep, interesting, with good plot, and then just absolutely outrageously funny characters. But also his books always have something to say. They have a commentary of a sort that's really engaged, thoughtful, and compassionate. And I think it's amazing that he can balance all that. Reapex VT, how do I go about writing a foreign language in my story? There's two ways that are apparent to me to do this. One, you can actually have the foreign language in your writing, typically in italics, and readers may or may not understand it. The other way to do it is when that foreign language is spoken, particularly if it's a fictional language. You don't have to write it out. You can just have that the character was speaking and the viewpoint character didn't understand, or did understand, and just make it clear that they're saying it in a foreign language. You could do this by just describing the sounds that they're making, don't go too into the weeds on that. You could just say, like, you could have them speaking in one language and then transition and have the main character be confused at why suddenly it's not making sense, and then realize, oh, they're speaking a different language. It's really all about how much of a barrier you want the foreign language to be. You should have it in there to serve a purpose, and based on what that purpose is, that determines, is it easy for the main character to understand? Do they need to learn that language as the book progresses? Do they already speak that language? These are all questions that you answer based on what you're trying to achieve by having a foreign language in the book. Lucy, at what age did I write my first book? First, all the way to completion book, I probably wrote when I was like 19. I started dozens of books prior to that. I finished short stories prior to that, but a full-length novel, probably like 19, maybe 20 before I fully finished it. So yeah. But that being said, there's never too early, there's never too late. You can become a great storyteller at any age. It's just about having passion and putting in the effort. Where is it? DBZ Now. Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you again. You said, how do I make warfare strategies logical within the context of the story? I don't truly know. I suppose they need to make sense. They need to aim to realistically achieve the goals of the character. I think this really ties back into what I was saying earlier about combat should pull double or triple duty in a story. It should be cool and dramatic. That's number one, obviously. Number two, we need to clearly establish what the consequences are for victory and for defeat, because when we know the stakes, we know what matters. And three, we need to understand the personal consequences of all the characters involved. I think if you have those three things, we will care about the combat, we will find it interesting. In terms of strategies, that's a bit more of an overarching thing. I think look up historical conflicts, look up the strategies involved, what the goals were. I think a good book for this is On War by Clausewitz. I'll put it in chat for you. I think it's a really interesting book for learning about this sort of stuff. Oh, not Clausewitz, Clausewitz. Drop the A on the end of my message there. Cube, you said, I'm going to do 2 more questions here, guys, then I'll sign off for the day. Thank you for your wonderful follows and questions and engagement today. I appreciate it. It's been very successful, I feel like. Cube asked, what's the best piece of writing advice you've received from someone? The best piece of writing advice is to write what you're excited about. You have to entertain yourself first before the readers have fun. If you don't have fun, the readers won't have fun. So write what you find interesting and exciting. I think if you do that, man, all the rest will fall into place. Perseo, you said, am I a full-time author? Does it pay well? Yes, I am a full-time author. Does it pay well? It depends on the year. Depends on how sales go. If I can sell more books to publishers and get a nice advance, it depends. I've had years where I've made 6 figures. I've had years where I make barely enough to survive. It kind of goes back and forth. But the good news is every year you do it, it kind of builds and goes up and up and up. All right, one more question here. Let's see. Shadow, I think you've asked this one a couple times, and I've missed it. So you asked, how do you get inspired for your plot? Like, how do you come up with ideas? That is a tough one. That's always a tough stage of planning. I think you can plot a lot ahead of time and follow it religiously as you write. You can plot a little bit and kind of figure it out as you go, or you can plot not at all and just make it up as you go. Try all 3, see what works for you. But in terms of how to get inspired for it, think of your story and think of what's the absolute craziest, coolest, most exciting moment in the book, and then think about the steps required to realize that moment. I think this is a good way to basically start with your climax. You start with the most amazing, crazy, all the stakes, big explosions, action moment of your book, and then walk it back and go, what had to happen to build me to this moment? That's a good way that I get inspired. Lane, you asked most popular book of mine. By sales, my most popular book is this one, Warden. That has sold thousands and thousands of copies. Wriggly Little Hands is catching up to it, and I think might pass it if we get some good sales and a little bit more eyes on it. So probably these 2 right here are my most popular. Lucy, you will not have problems if you take inspiration from other things. Everybody does it, whether they admit it or not. You can't help it. We are like sponges of inspiration. Whatever movie we're interested in right now, whatever song we're liking, all these things, whatever books we're reading, these all build into this is all our input, and it all results in our creative output. Don't worry about it. Just have fun, and just don't blatantly plagiarize to the point of lifting every plot detail from another story or something, and you're going to be fine. I said I was going to just do 2 more, but I guess I'm just doing a few bonus here. Judo, you said, how do you wrestle with everything you write feeling derivative? Don't worry about it. Everybody feels derivative at some point in time. Don't let it stop you. Just be interested and have fun. It's where it starts. You have to entertain yourself before you're going to entertain the audience. So write to entertain yourself. Don't worry about the rest. Phil Harris, you said you're writing your first book. It's taken you more than a year. How many books do you need to write to make it? Theoretically, 1. You could blow up with 1 book. You probably won't. So this is a concept of systems, not goals. Your goal can be, I want to make it as an author. I want to do this professionally and make a living off of it. But having that as a goal is nice, but you're not going to just get there because you say you want it. What you need is a system that builds towards that goal. And that system should be it can be whatever you want, but a good starting place for that system is write a certain number of days each week. If you start a book, finish it. And just keep going, because that system, if you are actively writing and you are actively finishing books, you are going to have books to publish, and you're closer to your goal of making it as an author. So don't focus on, I want to make X amount of dollars per year as an author. Focus on, I want to write every day that I say my writing schedule says I should write. And if you stick to that system, you will eventually achieve your goal. Mad Max, do people like dark stories? Sure. Yeah, that's a popular genre. I don't know how much they like them compared to happier stories. It comes and goes, ebbs and flows. Write what you like. Look, as you brought up, Stephen King, incredibly popular. Sir Paint, on Video App, you said Wrigley is so good. I'll never stop praising that book. Man, thank you. I really appreciate that. Y'all, if you don't know, Sir Paint's talking about Wriggly Little Hands, my most recent book. Thank you. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, my man. I love it. Please do leave a review wherever you purchased it if you can. It really helps me out. But thank you so much for saying you enjoy it. That really motivates me as an author, and I'm working on the sequel. I can't wait to get it out to you. And if you enjoyed Wrigley, please make sure you check out the prequel. You get it for free for joining my newsletter or my Discord, both of which are linked in my bio. You get this prequel to Wriggly Little Hands, and you get this prequel to Servant of Rage for free if you join those. So check them out. Get Off My Lawn Guy said, are you an author because you write, or are you an author because you get paid for the things you write? You are an author because you write and you finish stories. That's all that's required. If you're creating finished stories, you are an author in my book. There are different stages of author. You can be a professional author. You can be an author who makes a lot of money. You can be an author who makes a lot of money. You can be an author who says, I don't care about money. I just do it because it's fun. But as long as you write and finish your stories, you're an author. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate all your questions. I got to go, and I got to write so I can keep being an author. But thank you for being here. Please give me a follow if you enjoyed it and you want to come back. We're going to be here Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. Central Time. Going to be a bit of a wild card stream. So if you got any ideas for what I should do on stream or what you want to see, pop into my Discord. It's linked in my bio, and let me know. But otherwise, guys, thank you for the great questions today. I love it. It's been a great day. Wonderful questions. I feel like we covered some relevant stuff today, so thank you very much for that. As a reminder, I am author Alex Knight. I've been writing full-time since 2018. These are my books. If you'd like to pick them up, I would appreciate it. It supports me. It supports the stream. And hey, you might read a good book in the process. I think they're good books. You let me know. Check them out. They're available through the links in my bio as audiobooks, ebooks, paperbacks, any format you want. It's probably there. And you can buy them pretty much anywhere you would buy books. Please give them a look. But thank you for being here, y'all. And now, as always, a very special thank you to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for the use of his songs Farm, Manor, Cottages, and Northern Glade, which have provided our background music today. A very, very extra special thank you to community member Rafi the Engineer. You might have seen him in chat. You might have seen him doing a bit of moderating, pinning a few comments today. He has composed Midnight at the Round Table, our 5th background song. Rafi wrote and produced that song just for stream. Rafi, I appreciate you, my guy. Of course, a shout out to my excellent moderators, Melissa Lee 28, Rafi the Engineer, One Happy Harpy, The Seth Word, Other Name Wasn't Available, aka Slendy, Alicia T, and Aaron Winnick. Y'all, thank you for moderating chat. I appreciate you being here. But also chat, thank you for not really needing much moderation. Y'all keep it happy, you keep it vibing, and I appreciate that immensely. Thank you for bringing a good attitude and a good atmosphere to kick off the day. And hey, hopefully we've kicked off your week in the right way. So let's go out there and have a rockin' week. Y'all, I will be back here on Wednesday morning. I hope to see you here too. Until then, I hope you do well. I hope you live well. Be excellent to each other. And rock on. Have a good one, folks. I will catch you on the next one. Peace out.